Continuing to read through the New Testament, we find the incredible scene at the beginning of John chapter 13, which is the Last Supper of Jesus with his disciples. And it talks about how he had eagerly desired to share this meal with his disciples. And it's such a pivotal moment in the narrative of Jesus' life toward his death, and also a pivotal moment in the sacred imagination of the church, to understand more of the life of our Lord with his disciples, sharing the sacraments, the Eucharist. Back then it was the Passover meal together, and we're given this beautiful little insight which I've mentioned quite a ways in the past, but I think it just refreshed again when I was reading it, as it mentions at the beginning of John 13, where Jesus had this revelation of knowing that he was from the Father, he was returning to Father, and that the Father had given all things into his hands. So if you pause for a moment there and just recognize that, stare at that truth for a minute, where Jesus has full self-awareness, full disclosed revelation of who he is, of what he is, not only of his humanity amongst his friends, but also his co-divinity with the Father. And that all things in creation were given into his hands. He was the undisputed sovereign of all things. And so what does Jesus do with this knowledge when all power, all wisdom, all knowledge, all infinite capacities are his to exercise? What does he do with this reality? And we're told amazingly in the next verse, it says, so, in other words, it's almost like in response to this awareness, in response to this revelation, Jesus takes off his outer garment, fills up a basin of water and washes his disciples' feet, which is just stunning, because he even washes Judas's feet at this point. Judas hasn't yet been identified and removed himself from the disciples as the betrayer, but he's still seated around the table or in the room with the disciples, and so Jesus even washes Judas's feet at this point, when he has this self-understanding of his own divine identity. So just an amazing insight and challenge and truth into what does power look like, what does love look like, what does authority look like. And when we stare at Jesus, we realize that all of these things look like humility, they look like service, they look like affection, they look like the pouring out of himself for the others. And so we can't really help but be challenged, to be encouraged and blessed by that. We just find ourselves again being confronted with this love of another kind. It wasn't based on how good the disciples were behaving or what kind of attitude they had or anything that would be of deserving this moment of affection, but it's just pure gratuity from the divine to the human, from our Lord to his disciples, from him really to us through them. So be blessed, be encouraged that as we take a moment and we just look intently at the life of Jesus, we can't help but be inspired and blessed and nourished and changed in some good way. Till next time, peace.